there, my name is Carter and I've recently started training for an attempt of Mount Kilimanjaro. Ever since I started posting my training and preparations for Kili, I've gotten so many questions about what my program is and how I've been getting ready. So I thought it would be beneficial to do a video to kind of explain what goes into all of this work. Also, I've had a lot of comments about why are you training so hard? I have something magical called altitude sickness. Why am I doing this? I want to share my background and what I have done to try to improve myself to get to higher altitudes to others. So if you love mountains, live at sea level, get altitude sickness, and you're a casual hiker and trekker, I'm hoping that I can share my advice and it can help you all. I'll start by giving a little background to myself. I was a Girl Scout for roughly 10 years. I loved backpacking, hiking, rock climbing, anything on the water, sailing, canoeing, kayaking. And I had the delusion in my 20s after graduating college and grad school that I would get into mountaineering. I took my first trip to Colorado and attempted a 14er, and I got horrifically ill above 13,000 feet. Horrible headache. I was sick out of both ends. My lips had actually turned blue. Then my husband basically forced me to turn around. He's like, you are gonna get a cerebral edema, you're gonna get HAPE, you're gonna die. Let's just go back down, you can try this again. And I just got so incredibly frustrated and heartbroken because I wanted to do this so badly, and this really shattered the dream. But since then, I've done a rest base camp. I've been to Peru. I've been to multiple places over, 15,000 feet. What have I done to get there? And what major changes did I make to be able to do this? Let's start with part one, Diamox. This is the magical pill that I did not know about in my 20s, and it changed my life. I had to find out about Diamox myself through internet searching. I brought it to my doctor and she had never heard of it before. So it is much more mainstream now, which is fantastic. And the first time I took it, I was able to make it to 16,000 feet there, which blew my mind, with my only side effect being I can't have anything with carbonation because it tastes awful, which is worth it. But I highly suggest that if you're interested in trying Diamox, you talk to your physician, clinician about it, because it doesn't play nicely with some medications and there are side effects. It is a diuretic, it can dehydrate you, and it doesn't eliminate altitude sickness completely, but it is something that can significantly help you if you are like me and you get very ill when you go at altitude. So Diamox is magical step number one. Number two is cardiovascular training. I'm trained to train my cardiovascular system because my heart and my lungs are going to be going much faster than usual. At sea level, my resting heart rate is something around 52 beats per minute. When I was at Gorakshep at EBC, my resting heart rate was almost 10 beats per minute faster. So that is being compounded 24 hours a day along with your breathing, because my pulse ox, which I took throughout the entire trip at Gorakshep, my SpO2 was 77. So if my oxygen levels are at 77%, I need to obviously breathe more and my heart is beating faster. This is why I'm training above and beyond, because I'm trying to prepare my heart and my lungs and my cardiovascular system to be at this elevated rate for 8 days straight. Today, I do have 2 days of strength training, a day of basically a stepper, a day of recovery, and then a day of a long hike that I do each week. In a perfect world, you want to get a hike in every week, in increasing distance and increasing weight, preferably an in and out hike, because then you're practicing your ascents and your descents. Because if you're just going up on a stair stepper, you're not practicing the down, which can really get your joints, which is the big one for me. So I look at the longest hike day of my trek and the highest elevation gain, and I put those together, and that is what I'm training for. On top of that, my goal is to have double the weight of my pack. My goal is to keep my pack around 10 to 15 pounds. If I'm training at sea level, for 10 to 15 pounds, I am now going to be carrying 20 to 30 pounds because that is what it feels like. If you look at my EBC training, I trained to about 4,000 feet, that was the goal for elevation gain, and about 12 to 13 miles in duration. So in a perfect world, I would be hiking 13 miles, 4,000 feet elevation gain with a 30-pound pack comfortably. That is the biggest piece of advice I can give to you, is to train basically at sea level for altitude by doubling your pack weight and by focusing on getting those elevation gains and descents. But all of that is to train beyond what I'm going to do, as opposed to training for exactly what I'm going to do. Finally, the last piece of advice I have is around aches and pains. If you're like me, I was a dancer for a million years and I have so many knee and ankle injuries. Getting a coach like I have with the Summit Strength program and Rowan Smith is to be able to work around those. So if I have specific issues, he can tailor my weightlifting and that program around those specific aches and pains. And we use those training sessions each week where I have my long hike and I can report back where my pain is and then where we can target it for the next few weeks to see if it improves. There's one thing of doing a 12-mile hike with 3,000 feet elevation gain on a weekend. You are now doing this for 8 days in a row, for 11 days in a row. Your body is exhausted. Like I said, your heart rate is up, you're breathing harder, and you are just getting 30,000 steps or more every single day for a week. You need to be prepared for that by the cardiovascular training and by that strength training, so that you're mitigating and preparing in advance so that those aches and pains don't even happen. If you have aches and pains, highly recommend getting a coach, because they can work with your body to be able to ensure that you are at your best. Even doing all of these things, taking Diamox, training my cardiovascular system, training my body with strength training to try to avoid any aches and pains, that doesn't mean I'm going to succeed. There's still a chance that I will get there and I will not make the summit, because altitude is something that you can't prepare for 100%. You can mitigate it as much as you can, but there's absolutely no way to be sure. I am not an expert by any means. Find a real coach that is focused on physiology, PT, that knows the body and the components to be able to train you to get ready for whatever adventure you want to have at altitude. But hopefully this at least guides you in the right direction of what you can do to train to prepare for tackling the mountains when you're at sea level and get altitude sickness just like I do.